Joining us now with more on the president's plan is Florida Senator Marco Rubio. He serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator, thank you for joining us this morning. Your thoughts on the president's announcement last night?
Well, we're in a better place than we were a week ago or a month ago with regards to the president's view on this. Not so long ago, he said ISIL was the JV team, and now he acknowledges the threat that they pose. And not so long ago, he said that these moderate Syrian rebel elements, where it was a fantasy to think they could ever become an effective fighting force. He mocked them for being bankers and pharmacists, and now he wants to arm them. But again, I think we're in a better place. I do have some concerns about last night. I think that comparing this effort to what we've done in Yemen and in Somalia was a huge mistake. Number one, that we have cooperative governments in both of those places that help us. We don't have that in Syria and Iraq. Second, the nature of the threat is quite different. ISIL is not just a terrorist group, it's also an insurgency that carries out military operations. They're well funded, they control territory the size of the state of Maryland. It's a much more significant group that we're confronting. And I would just say Somalia and Yemen themselves are not a picture of, we've had some success there, but they're not a picture of stability. And my last point is, I didn't hear the president say last night, and I thought this was important. He didn't say, we are going to do whatever it takes to defeat them. And I'll tell you why that matters. Because a large component of this plan relies upon us working in conjunction with local forces on the ground to confront them. And that is what I believe should be the first step we take, and that is the ideal outcome.
Who do you think we should be working with on the ground?
But here's my concern. We should be working with them. But what if that fails? What if the Syrian rebels, no matter what we do, are not able to become a force that can confront them in Syria? What if the Iraqi military forces don't come together fast enough? What if the Kurds are not able to move beyond the territory they control? Does that mean ISIL then gets to stay?
Is that an argument for American boots on the ground, or do you have someone else in the region that you think would be a better partner?
Well, certainly we need other partners. I mean, we need these other Arab countries to step in, perhaps offer ground troop elements themselves. But I would just say that, no, we don't want American ground troops there, but that possibility exists, that if all other things fail, at least at the special operations level, it may require that at some point. And I think it's critical that the president be honest with the American people about that reality, because our position cannot be, we're going to do the best we can, but if it doesn't work out, then I guess ISIL gets to stick around, because that's just unacceptable.
The president did say last night that this is expected to be a long-term fight. This is not something that's going to happen quickly. The New York Times lays out this morning in an analysis piece saying that this is very likely going to be something that is handed to the president's successor. This will be a long war. This will not go away easily, and it will be something that in 2 years his successor will have to deal with. What do you think about the possibility of that? And if you were potentially in that seat, what would you be hoping was done at this point?
Well, I think a lot of the things that are happening now are the things I've been calling for quite some time, whether it's equipping, arming, and capacitating the moderate Syrian rebels. It would have been easier and more effective to have done that 2 years ago or a year ago, but I'm glad we're finally doing it. I think a sustained air assault against their transportation lines, their resupply capabilities, their headquarters in Syria, their oil refineries that they're generating $1 million a day of revenue from, these are all important elements as well. So I do think we're doing some of the right things now. I worry we've taken too long to do it, and so they may not be as effective. This may be a sustained thing. There's no doubt about it. But the bottom line is, what choice do we have? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves. What is the alternative? The alternative is to say we're going to try this for 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, then we're just going to accept ISIL as a permanent fixture in the Middle East.
Right.
That is not an acceptable outcome.
The public support is very much behind a move like this right now, but do you think the public support would still be there 2 years from now if this is a long, drawn-out campaign?
I don't know, but the answer to it, that I would say, is if we don't have a campaign that's successful, no matter how long it takes, that means Americans are going to be targeted, both at home and abroad. That means the world is going to see an Islamic caliphate established in the Middle East that's going to bring a uniquely brutal and vicious brand of Sunni Islamist thought to this part of the world that would overrun Jordan and Turkey and what we know today as Israel and the Palestinian territories and Saudi Arabia. This is just an unacceptable outcome. So I would just say that leadership requires us to do what is right, no matter what the polls are telling you. And there is no more important obligation for the federal government and the President of the United States than the national security of our people. And there is no day of the year that should remind us of that more than this anniversary of September 11th.
Senator, the president last night said that he does have legal authority for this. He's relying on that 2001 agreement for authorization for use of military force that was laid out to go after al-Qaeda. Legal experts have raised some questions about that because clearly ISIL is not associated with al-Qaeda at this point. If the president did come to Congress, would he get your vote supporting this move?
Yes. He would. And because it's important, as I said, to carry this out and be effective. Now, I want to see a good plan. I certainly want to make sure it's an effective one and not a symbolic one like the last time he came to Congress for use of force authorization. But I would. But let me just say I agree. The president does have the authority to continue the airstrikes and to expand them into Syria because he has the authority as commander-in-chief to address emergent and exigent crisis that faces the United States. And that's what ISIL is. If left unchecked, they would overrun our diplomatic facilities in Iraq. They could move quickly into Jordan. They could endanger the entire region. But in an ideal world, absolutely. Congress would put aside politics, rally around the commander-in-chief, and authorize him to do whatever it takes to beat ISIL.
All right. Senator Rubio, I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you.